Welcome to the SmartKeys podcast. You're probably drowning right now.
Oh, yeah.
Drowning in just this unyielding stream of urgent emails, Slack notifications, industry podcasts, long read articles, research papers. I mean, it's endless.
It really is.
If you are a modern professional, you know this dilemma intimately. You're trying to stay ahead, you're trying to be well informed, but instead, you're just feeling the absolute strain of information overload.
Right. It's like a fire hose.
Exactly. You read something brilliant on Tuesday morning, and by Thursday afternoon, when you actually need that insight for like a high-stakes client meeting, it is just gone.
Completely vanished.
Vanished into the digital ether. So to solve this, today we are going on a deep dive into a really comprehensive guide by Felix Römer. He's the founder of SmartKeys.org, and the guide is titled Second Brain Organization Framework for Smarter Thinking.
And, it's a remarkably common feeling, that sensation of losing your own insights just when you need them most.
Oh, for sure. It's so frustrating.
But what we have to realize is that this isn't a failure of your intelligence.
Wait, it's not?
No, not at all. It is a failure of your system.
Okay.
The core philosophy of the framework we're unpacking today rests on one fundamental shift in how we view ourselves, really. Our minds are designed to be generators of ideas, not storage boxes.
Generators, not storage boxes. I like that.
Yeah. The goal of this deep dive is to explore how building a trusted digital repository, a second brain, as he calls it, can completely offload that storage requirement.
So you don't have to hold it all in your head.
Exactly. When you stop forcing your biological brain to, remember every URL, every market statistic, every brilliant quote you come across, you free up massive amounts of mental space.
Space for what, exactly?
For what your brain actually does best.
Yeah.
High-level thinking, complex analysis, creativity.
Man, that framing completely changes the objective. We are going to figure out how to stop hoarding facts in our own heads and start designing a reliable system for retrieval.
That's the goal.
But before we get into the mechanics of the framework itself, we need to look at the landscape we're operating in. The old way of working, trying to memorize everything or tossing random links into cluttered browser bookmarks, is fundamentally broken.
Oh, completely. We are trying to navigate a fire hose of data with a teacup.
A teacup, yes. Okay, let's unpack this. Because I look at my own hardware, my biological human brain, and it's essentially a computer's CPU, right? The central processing unit.
Right.
It's incredibly fast at processing information, calculating risks, coming up with new solutions on the fly, but it has terrible long-term memory capacity.
Yeah, it's not built for that.
So the second brain is like plugging in an external hard drive. It just sits there holding all the heavy files and archives so my CPU can run at maximum speed without crashing.
That is a perfect analogy.
Yes.
Because the modern business landscape, it demands constant, rapid consumption of new information.
Oh, absolutely.
You have to stay ahead of market trends, understand software updates, monitor competitors, just to keep pace. But natural human recall breaks down rapidly under that kind of pressure.
It really does. You read a great strategy piece, you think, oh, I'll use this for the Q3 planning session, and then poof, the insight evaporates.
And what happens next is constant rework. You spend an hour searching your downloads folder for that one PDF, or you just reinvent the wheel and do the research all over again.
Which is the worst.
It is. A second brain is the solution to this. It's a centralized, app-agnostic digital repository that captures your highlights, your notes, and your critical resources. So they're waiting for you precisely when you need them.
But wait, let me push back here for a second.
Sure.
My biological brain is already overwhelmed by the tools I have to manage. I have project management apps, internal communication tools, CRMs where we track all our sales leads. Aren't we just adding a sixth piece of complex software to the pile?
That is the exact trap most professionals fall into, and it's why Felix Römer emphasizes that this methodology is entirely app-agnostic.
Okay, meaning what?
Meaning the power of the second brain lies in the system, not the software. It honestly does not matter if you use Evernote, Notion, Apple Notes, or Microsoft OneNote.
So I don't need to buy a shiny new app.
Nope. You assemble the tools you already know and feel comfortable with. The framework uses a simple rule: store once, retrieve anytime.
Store once, retrieve anytime.
Exactly. The choice of app matters far less than the standardized method you follow to organize that information around your current work. You aren't learning a complex new software platform. You're adopting a reliable habit within the digital environments you already inhabit.
Ah, okay. So we aren't chasing a new productivity app. We are changing our behavior.
Yes, exactly.
We need to figure out how a podcast insight actually makes it from our headphones into an organized digital page without us doing like an hour of manual data entry.
Right. Nobody wants to do data entry.
Definitely not. So the guide breaks this down into the CODE method. CODE. Capture, organize, distill, express. Let's start with the C, capture.
So capturing is about saving only what resonates and inspires action. It's not about saving an entire 10-page article just in case you might need it someday.
Just in case is dangerous.
Very dangerous.
Yeah.
Your capture with intent. The text actually outlines 4 intuitive filters you should run information through before you hit save.
Oh, what are they?
Is it useful? Is it personal? Is it surprising? Or is it inspiring?
Useful, personal, surprising, inspiring.
Right. So if an article about a new pricing strategy is useful for your current job, you save it. If a counterintuitive statistic surprises you, you save it.
But you don't save the whole page, right?
No, you capture the specific highlight or the core idea. And the tools available now make this practically frictionless.
Like what?
Well, you can use read later apps like Readwise Reader, Pocket, or Instapaper. You use web clippers on your browser to grab text, or transcription apps for voice memos on your commute.
Oh, I love voice memos.
They're great. And all of this should flow automatically into a single centralized inbox in your preferred Notes app.
But wait, I know people who have thousands of bookmarked pages and tens of thousands of unread emails. If we make it too easy to capture using web clippers and read later apps, don't we just build a digital landfill?
That's a really valid concern. The difference between a second brain and a digital landfill is action.
Action. Okay.
Yeah. The rule Romer introduces to prevent that hoarding is curate now, create later.
Curate now, create later.
Exactly. Everything you save must spark a next step or tie directly to your long-term interests. You aren't clipping an article because it looks mildly interesting. You are saving a specific paragraph because it challenges an assumption your team holds.
Or maybe it provides a framework you can use in an upcoming presentation.
Exactly. If the information is purely noise, you have to let it go to protect your attention.
Okay, so we've captured the high-quality material and it's sitting in our digital inbox. But a full inbox isn't useful if it's just a chronological list of random facts.
No, that's just chaotic.
Right. And that brings us to organization, the O in code. The framework uses a very specific filing system called the PARA method. PARA. How do these 4 buckets structure our work?
So PRRA is designed to keep your digital life purposeful, separating active work from things you might just need as reference. It stands for projects, areas, resources, and archive.
Projects, areas, resources, archive. Got it.
Let's break them down. First, projects. These are short-term goals with specific deadlines.
Like a concrete deliverable.
Yes. If a file supports a specific deliverable like launching a new website by next month or submitting a budget by Friday, it goes in a project folder. It demands your attention right now.
Okay, so that's projects. What's next?
Second is areas. These are ongoing responsibilities without due dates.
No due dates.
Right? Think of roles you maintain over time. Team management, personal finance, health, client care. These are background commitments that need regular attention, but they aren't going to be finished by a specific date.
So projects have a definite finish line, but areas are a continuous treadmill.
That's a great way to put it, yes. Then we have the third bucket, resources. This is your personal library.
Like a reference section.
Exactly. It is for interesting and potentially useful topics. You might save marketing templates, insights on artificial intelligence, interior design ideas here.
Stuff for inspiration.
Right. It's for inspiration and reference, not immediate to-dos.
Yeah.
And finally, the archive.
Ah, the archive.
This is crucial for keeping your flow uncluttered. The archive is where you put inactive items, completed projects, areas you're no longer responsible for, resources you no longer care about.
It gets them out of your face.
Exactly. It gets them out of your visual workspace, but keeps them fully searchable just in case.
You know, it's funny. If you look at how most people organize their computer desktops right now, they usually create folders based on broad topics.
Oh, yeah.
A folder for marketing, a folder for budgets, a folder for interesting articles. But PRA completely abandons topic-based organization.
It does. And there's a profound psychological reason for that shift.
Really? What is it?
Organizing by topic mixes highly actionable items with passive reference material.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Yeah. If you open a marketing folder and see a critical Q3 ad campaign deliverable sitting right next to an interesting article about color theory you saved 3 years ago, Your brain has to constantly evaluate what is urgent and what is not.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. It triggers anxiety.
Yeah.
Your brain cannot easily distinguish the immediate threat from the someday inspiration.
Wow.
Organizing by actionability, which is what Pierre Day does, solves this. Projects are hyper-actionable. Resources have low actionability. By separating them, you eliminate that cognitive friction.
And that simplicity carries over to how you actually file things away, right?
Hey.
When you're looking at a new note in your inbox, say a study on consumer habits, you don't have to agonize over where it goes. You just ask a rapid-fire sequence of questions.
Yes.
Which project does this belong to? If it doesn't fit a current project, you step down and ask, okay, which ongoing area does this support? If none, which resource does it belong in? And if none of those apply, you just archive it. It completely removes the friction of organizing because making the decision takes 3 seconds.
Speed is everything here. Organizing shouldn't be the work. It is just the preparation for the work.
Exactly.
Now that we have captured high-quality information and organized it so it's instantly findable, how do we actually use it? We transition from simply storing knowledge to leveraging it for real business efficiency.
Which brings us to the D and the E in code. Distill and express.
Right.
The guide talks about a concept called progressive summarization for the distill phase. What is that?
Progressive summarization is about designing your notes for your future self.
Your future self.
Yeah. When you capture an excerpt from an article, you might save 5 or 6 dense paragraphs. But your future self, who's rushing to prepare for a meeting 3 months from now, does not have time to read paragraphs.
Nobody has time for this.
Exactly. So you distill. Let's look at the actual mechanism of how this works. You don't rewrite the whole thing.
Thank goodness.
Right. In your first pass, you simply read through the note and bold the top 10 to 20% of the text, the most crucial sentences.
Okay, just bolding.
Then, maybe a few weeks later, when you revisit that note for a project, you do a second pass. You take a digital highlighter tool and highlight the absolute core phrases within that bolded text.
So narrowing it down further.
Yes. And finally, only if the note is truly vital, you add a short summary at the very top, in your own words, using just a few bullet points.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Progressive summarization is essentially like making a culinary reduction sauce.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah. You start with this massive pot of raw material, say a 5,000-word market research report. You let it simmer, you boil it down, you skim away the excess, and eventually what you are left with is a highly concentrated base.
A flavor bomb.
Exactly, a flavor bomb. Months later, when you are drafting an email to stakeholders or building a slide deck, you don't have to read the raw material again. You just take a small amount of that concentrated insight and apply it directly to your work.
It is instantly scannable.
And the core metric or argument is immediately accessible.
Yes, but the key is that you only do this distillation when you actually need to use the note.
Oh, so you aren't doing this all at once.
No, definitely not. You do not sit there on Sunday night summarizing hundreds of notes as if it's homework.
Yeah.
You distill on demand.
That's a huge relief.
Right. When you open a note to use it, you summarize it a bit further. That concentrated baseline you just described is what makes the final step possible. Express.
Expression, the actual output.
Expression is where the actual return on investment happens in this whole system. This is where curated fragments become real work.
How so?
When you follow this framework, you treat your curated notes as modular building blocks. Modern knowledge work is rarely about inventing something entirely from scratch.
That's true.
The second brain transforms creation into assembly.
Assembly rather than invention. How does this look in practice for a professional who is, say, staring down a major deadline?
Okay, imagine sitting down to write a strategic brief or a presentation deck for a new product launch. Traditionally, you would stare at a blinking cursor on a blank page.
The terror of the blank page.
Exactly. You'd open 20 browser tabs, reread old emails, and try to synthesize everything on the fly. It is exhausting.
Completely.
But with the second brain, you open your system, you search for the topic, you immediately find 3 distilled quotes from a competitor analysis you did last quarter.
Wow.
A statistical framework you bolded from an industry podcast. An email template you saved 6 months ago because you liked its structure.
Can you just pull them all in?
You dragged the quotes into your slide deck. You dropped the statistical framework into your executive summary. You are repurposing compact, highly refined notes into emails, articles, and scripts in minutes rather than hours.
That is incredible.
It gives you a massive competitive advantage. You speed up business initiatives because you draw from a library of proven elements that you have already vetted. It is assembly, not invention.
Avoiding the terror of the blank page is the ultimate goal. I mean, over the years, this repository becomes an incredibly dense, highly personalized engine for your career.
It really does.
But, a system is only as good as its maintenance. A car with a great engine still needs regular oil changes to run.
That is very true.
If you are listening to this, you might be thinking you simply do not have the time to maintain a digital library every single week.
Right, and if the system becomes a burden, it will fail. That's why the framework prescribes very specific, lightweight review rhythms.
Lightweight is key.
It breaks down into daily, weekly, and monthly cadences. Daily attention is reserved only for your active projects.
That makes sense. It's your immediate work.
Exactly. The weekly rhythm is where you batch process your inbox. Once a week, you sit down, look at the items you captured, and use those quick PARA questions to file them.
How long does that actually take?
The text estimates filing 10 to 20 items takes just minutes. You also check your areas weekly to ensure no ongoing responsibilities are slipping.
And monthly.
Finally, you do a monthly scan of your resources to surface ideas that might be worth promoting into active work.
Okay, but even with batching, what about the professional who claims they're just too busy to dedicate those 15 minutes a week to clearing their digital inbox?
We have to look at the biology and psychology of context switching to understand the true cost here.
Context switching.
Yeah. Context switching happens when you jump between unrelated tasks, like writing a report, then stopping to search for a lost attachment, then checking a Slack message, then going back to the report.
I do that all day long.
We all do. Every time you switch context, your brain has to load a completely new set of rules and memories into its working memory. It burns an enormous amount of glucose in the prefrontal cortex.
Wow.
It physically exhausts your brain, leading to decision fatigue and inability to focus.
So spending 15 minutes on a Friday afternoon to batch process your inbox isn't a chore. It is a defense mechanism against that cognitive exhaustion.
Exactly. By batching similar tasks and using a single low-friction inbox, the system drastically cuts your context switching during the week.
It saves you from yourself.
Yes. If you don't maintain a system like this, you might, quote-unquote, save 15 minutes on Friday, but you will easily lose 3 hours next Wednesday frantically searching your email archives, your downloads folder, your browser history for a single document.
Burning cognitive energy the entire time.
Exactly. Maintaining a second brain doesn't cost time. It fundamentally reclaims it. It keeps the system trustworthy so you always know exactly where to look next.
So what does this all mean for the listener right now? If someone is sitting at their desk looking at a computer desktop covered in miscellaneous files and an email inbox with like 4,000 unread messages, how do they actually begin without feeling paralyzed by the sheer volume of their past digital life?
They follow Felix Römer's exact starting advice. Start small.
Start small, okay.
Do not try to organize your entire digital history in one weekend. You pick one clean action today. The guide suggests a very specific maneuver to get a clean slate.
What's the maneuver?
Take all your legacy files, all those old folders you haven't opened in months, and move them into a single archive folder dated today.
Just sweep them all in there.
Just get them out of your visual field. You haven't deleted them, they're still fully searchable, but you are separating the past from what you will keep next.
That's brilliant.
Once you have that clean slate, create a single inbox in whatever notes app you prefer. And then today, capture and file just one single note into the PRE structure. A durable habit is built on small, compounding actions.
Sweeping everything into an archive folder dated today and saying, that was the past, this is the future, immediately lowers the barrier to entry.
It really does.
We have covered incredible ground today. We moved from the chaos of cognitive overload to capturing with intent, organizing by actionability with Puree, distilling our raw materials into concentrated insights, and expressing our ideas by assembling modular blocks. It is a completely different way to approach the work we do every day.
It is. And connecting everything back to the beginning, it honors the fact that your brain is a remarkable generator of ideas, and it deserves to be freed from the tedious job of data storage. I want to leave the listener with a final concept from the text to ponder, really a phrase that ties the whole framework together.
Okay.
Expression completes the loop.
Expression completes the loop.
According to the framework, creating reveals what your capture and distillation should focus on next. Think about your current work. If your current outputs, your weekly reports, your client emails, your creative projects are a constant struggle to produce, what does that reveal about what you should be capturing and distilling next?
Wow.
Are you feeding your second brain the right raw materials today for the future you want to build tomorrow?
If the output is hard, look at the input. Thank you for tuning in to the Smart Keys podcast. We really hope this deep dive has given you a new perspective on managing the constant flow of information in your professional life.
It's a game changer, really.
It absolutely is. If you found this valuable, please subscribe to the podcast so you never miss a deep dive. And I highly urge you to read the full article by Felix Römer to deeply understand and implement the Code E and PRA methods for yourself. You can find the link to the full article right there in the show notes. Until next time, keep your system simple and your thinking sharp.